We had a unit a while back where we cut the padlock off someone who hadn't paid to open the door, and just went in. Just as he was going inside the unit, just inside the unit, there was like this like big zombie mannequin that was just like hiding behind the door. We kind of thought that it would be a really cool idea if, like, when the customer puts their PIN code in the gate and they've not paid and they're locked out, it should send them a text automatically with a link to pay. So that they can just hit that link and just pay what they need to pay to get in.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our latest edition of our podcast. And we're joined today by Michael. Thanks very much for joining, Michael.
Thank you for having me. So I'm from Standby Self-Storage and Quickfit Container Accessories. I operate out of just in Horsham, West Sussex. We've got 8 locations with Standby currently, and then we also operate the container accessories out of Horsham, selling all the parts and bits and pieces for shipping containers.
Great. Well, Michael, thanks very much for joining us. So it's great to have you because you have the perspective of starting and building and running a self-storage business across 8 sites, as well as obviously being a supplier. So you know the industry really well. So I'm sure when we go through a few of the questions, you'll have lots of insights, and hopefully, I think it's going to be a really interesting episode as well. So, first of all, what inspired you to get into the self-storage business? And obviously, you have 8 sites now, but you have to start with one. How did you approach kind of your first site?
Yeah, well, I guess we came from property previously, and we had like a site that was garages and sort of like a scaffold yard, and it was quite run down in Croydon. Our plan initially was to create sort of small industrial units, kind of like light industrial kind of work units. I think we had room for about 9 on the site. We sort of went through the process of getting planning for it, and it was around sort of kind of 2008. It was kind of like we got to a point with it where we're actually like, this is going to cost us quite a bit to set up, the outlay and everything. And we were kind of like, the units were a bit kind of, I guess they were kind of like over specced, because if they needed to have like grass roofs to meet certain requirements of the local council. But the land, it had B8 already, B8 industrial use. So we then changed tax on it, and we went for container self-storage, which we kind of got the idea. We kind of looked around and we found we were kind of looking for other options, sort of small, sort of light industrial sort of units, and then we were kind of looking. So we always thought there was like a demand for like that kind of storage sort of side of things. We weren't necessarily thinking personal at the time. We were just kind of thinking more from a business perspective. And that's where we really came across sort of self-storage. But we kind of always thought, the warehouse side of things was a bit different. At the time, we were very, kind of like business focused on it. It kind of grew from there, really. And because around our way, there wasn't really any other competition. There wasn't anyone really in Croydon doing that kind of thing, or in sort of Surrey and Sussex. There were quite few and far between. So it was more just kind of like your big yellow sort of larger self-storage operators. That was really the only real comparison at the time.
So what year was it that you opened? So it sounded like you were looking at this at 2008 at the site. Did you open shortly after that, or how long did that take you from there to opening?
We started the works in 2010, and then opened in 2011. It took a while in the first, and our plan initially was to run it remotely, have everything set up so that people could book online. We kind of quickly learned that because it was quite a small site. I think in all it had about 60 units, but only about 25 20-foot containers. There's quite a few small ones on the site as well. And we filled it up really quickly. And we kind of decided against the investing in the online booking system at the time, just because we thought we didn't really need that to sort of do for that kind of size site at the time. And we always wanted to sort of go that next step with it, and then also kind of like do like a kiosk outside of the gates. People could book from just outside of just sort of turn up and book as well. That was always sort of the plan initially.
You mentioned that in 2008 you thought you decided to go into self-storage. Do you remember at what point did you kind of see the self-storage industry and think that looks interesting? Do you remember what it was that kind of attracted you to it in the first place?
I think my great uncle rented a container over sort of Guildford way. He mentioned it to us, and we thought, that's quite an interesting idea. And we looked at that site, and then that kind of gave us an idea, kind of the other people were doing that kind of thing as well. That's that sort of, I think it was always sort of like we were kind of more at the time we were looking at sort of also like the sort of block built units. We looked at quite a few different ways to do it, sort of like with roller shutters, a little bit like what you get in the States. We looked at a few different ways to do it. It's kind of what came from there really.
And whenever you opened in Croydon, so in 2011, did you have some kind of long-term vision for standby storage, or has it just kind of evolved as it's gone, as time has passed?
I think we always wanted to do more, but once we realised that how well it went initially, we were kind of looking to see what else we could get. I think the struggle always was like getting the locations either freehold or on a lease long enough to make it really viable. And it's kind of gone through the years. You kind of go through phases, I feel like, where there's a lot of availability and then there's not much, or you find nowadays sometimes you find places where there's a lot more competition and you think, oh, maybe it's not worth setting up there. And then you go through phases of it. But I think we've always kind of looked to sort of grow the business and get more, definitely. But it's just we've always been cautious about where we go.
So the challenge is finding one of the biggest challenges is often finding new locations. So do you see that then in cycles? Is that how you've experienced that over the past 13 or 14 years? Sometimes there's lots of opportunity, and then just sometimes it's just expensive. There's nothing on the market.
Or it's not, like if it's a leasehold, maybe it's not long enough. They won't offer it on a long enough lease. Generally I always try and look for like 10 years plus. Anything less than that, really, we just tend to avoid, just because of sort of like return on investment. It takes we find it usually takes a while, a few years. Sort of you've got to pay off your containers and all your initial outlay and everything.
So you have 8 sites. How many containers do you have across all 8 sites?
I think got about 800 roughly.
Okay.
Top of my head. Various sizes. We've got quite a few multi-door split units. So I think it's over 1,000 units in total. But I think shipping container wise, it's around about 850, something like that.
Okay. So your average site has about 110 container sized storage on it. So that relatively, there are some container sites with 500, 1,000, 2,000 containers. So relatively small sites. What sort of size in acres are your sites roughly? Do you look for half an acre? Do you look for an acre? Do you have a minimum, maximum?
They vary. We've taken a couple of smaller ones sort of initially, but then we kind of went sort of bigger and bigger, really. Sort of we've got one site with the Horsham one that we've kind of initially we had half acre, and then we actually over the years we've got the options to sort of take additional parts. So we've actually now got that up to like 2.5 acres. About 6 weeks ago, we managed to obtain sort of an acre next door. So it's sort of given us sort of like an additional sort of space to grow that one. But some of the others, we got one that's like half acre. There's a couple of others that's sort of just under an acre. Yeah, it just depends really.
How many? So if anyone's listening who's kind of getting like thinking of getting into containers and looking at some land,
Hmm.
if you look at let's say half an acre,
Hmm.
like what sort of size of like how many 20-foot containers would you be thinking about on that sort of size of plot, or does it just
Well,
depend on double stacking and all sorts of
yeah,
other
yeah. I
factors?
mean that. Yeah, it would really depend on the shape of the site, the
Mm.
layout. I guess like the height levels as well, just like
Mhm.
the different levels. Like the site we've just taken in Horsham, like we've had to. It kind of drops down. It's like an old gasworks, and it kind of dropped down in stages. So we've had to like have a
Mhm.
ramp built from one section to another to sort of so that the so vehicles can get in and out kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that is sort of a big factor. It's getting everything level is always a challenge because if you can then go
Mm.
upstairs, um, yeah, then that's the sort of thing that quite often is sort of like an afterthought, and you fill up, you think, oh, this
Mm.
has a few, but if you haven't got everything level in the beginning, then it kind of it makes it really tough to get everything
Yeah,
upstairs.
you have to plan in advance,
Mm,
and
yeah.
yeah, if you want to do a second floor, you got to be preparing for
Mm,
it before you even put in your first containers.
mm.
What about leasing versus buying the land that your containers are on? So, do you lease your all 8 sites that you have, or do you have a combination of owning some and leasing some?
It's combination. Yeah, we own three of our sites, and then the others we.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's always great to buy them if you can, isn't it? But yeah, it just depends on the opportunity and yeah, if it's possible.
Okay, so so your approach is kind of if you find a bit of land you like that's available to buy or lease, you'll be
Mm.
interested either way.
Yeah, yeah, providing it's
Yeah,
a longer lease.
yeah.
That's we wouldn't or freehold. Yeah.
And if you're looking at a leasehold, then you mentioned earlier that you'd look for at least 10 years.
Mm.
Is there anything else that you look for there? Like, do you look for specific rights? Is like if anyone else is looking at anything like this, like, is there advice you would give? Like, make sure
Mm.
not to make this mistake. Like, I don't know, is there anything that you've experienced where you're just very careful about
Mm.
how you approach leasehold?
Yeah, I think it's like obviously you got like the landlord and tenant acts. That it's important. It's
Mm.
better that if you can keep the rights to renew the lease, you've got a better chance of obviously negotiating the new lease because of otherwise you're kind of immediately on the back foot when you go into like the
Mm.
negotiation to renew the lease. I think also like just access hours, hours of access, like make sure like make sure there's no sort of restrictions or anything, or like planning
Yeah.
conditions or anything. Is always a bit got to be a bit careful with. Yeah, sort of like knowing like the neighbours who's nearby and what they're likely to access they're going to use it for and things like that as well. Like on industrial estates, sometimes lorries and stuff, it can block up the roads and stuff for access, just things like that really. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, interesting. Actually, for my
Mm.
first site here in Northern Ireland, it was next door to a recycling centre, and it didn't ever. We never got blocked, but there were an awful lot of recycling trucks and lots of dust,
Mm.
and it led to quite a lot of dust inside my facility. Even though I had a roller shutter when it was open, a lot of dust. So
Yeah.
it was fine. It didn't ever cause any major issues, but it was something that um, I had to spend more in cleaning and just the place was a little bit
Yeah.
dirtier than I would have liked as a result.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, and have you ever? One of the things I'm always interested about leases is have you ever had to vacate a property and actually move 50 containers off to a new site? Has that ever happened to you, or have you not had to deal with that before?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Years ago, we had a site in Thames Ditton that we that was actually it had previous uses like car storage, but it was it was it was just car storage use only, but B8
Mhm.
industrial. So we tried to get planning on it for containers that for like for just a small. It was only a small site, but it was a really good location. Yeah, we just couldn't get it, and yeah, we had to like pull out of that one in the end. And yeah, that was a shame, but yeah, that was yeah, it's just one of those things. Like it was a sort of like between two railway lines, and then the residential sort of next door neighbours were kind of the other side of the railway line. And yeah, we just couldn't get the permission approved for it. We couldn't believe it. It was such a good site. Like, but yeah, it's just.
And how many containers did you have? Did you have containers with people stuff in them that you had to then move?
No. We just started the process of we had like it was with Network Rail, and we couldn't not opt in. We had to sign the lease, but we got like a rent-free period, and there was a period where we got a bit of rent-free, and we got a discounted rental period on the condition that we were putting planning in for this use, and that we were going to get it approved. And there was a break if we couldn't get it approved after a year. I think it's a year and a half, something like that. And we applied for it thinking it should be pretty just a sort of slam dunk, and it wasn't, because like although there was all this noise from the trains coming through, it was like it meant that basically that our small amount of noise from slamming container doors or anything like that was kind of like an additional amount of noise that wasn't acceptable for the next door neighbours. It was separate from the railway noise, so it kind of like meant that they'd sort of had enough noise, they couldn't have any more, kind of thing, which I just could not believe. As like, we just thought, it's such a it's not going to be like people, kind of making loads of noise, being there all the time, using it for sort of sort of an industrial use. You can't always win, can you?
I know. So fast forwarding to today, then, Michael, you've got 8 sites, and obviously you've built a great business. Can you tell us about how you run the operations of your business? So, one of the things I'm particularly always interested in is, how do you deal with marketing? How do you get people into your kind of, the funnel? How do you deal with the prospects? How do you convert them into a paying customer? How do you manage move-in? How do you operate the business from that kind of perspective now? You talked as well at the start about wanting to get into the kind of unmanned. I think you'd said unmanned, or like that sort of side of things. So with that in mind, like where are things now? Kind of 13 years later.
Yeah, so 3 of our sites we have people on, and then the rest of them are unmanned. And yeah, the rest of it, we run sort of almost kind of sort of hybrid. Someone will go there occasionally and sort of do bits and pieces, tidy up. We periodically, we've got someone that goes around and just keeps everything nice. But I think one of the things actually that I was interested in, I don't know whether you've come across it before, but I was just thinking on this, was the move outs is like, when you obviously go somewhere, you go, and the guys, they go around, they do the cleaning, they check the units out that people have gone out of, and then you get a call sort of an hour later once they've left, and there's another unit that's just come empty. It's always like something that I've always that's something that is always one that you think, if there's a solution for that, it's
And are you thinking more kind of like, once a unit's empty, how do you get it ready as quickly as possible?
Yes. Or if you've got your facilities guys that's going around and they miss somebody's just about to move out their unit, and they're just a little bit too early, then they've got to wait till the next time they come for these sort of unmanned sites. But that's something that we're looking at, like maybe like bringing in like an automated like self checkout process with like where people sort of take photos of the unit and then send them through to us, and maybe we do like a small like refund or something as a thank you gesture for taking the time to do that and showing that it's all clean and ready to go. but yeah, like in terms of we run it. With others we run with someone there. Yeah, we've got like a office on the site where the guys operate from. But yeah, then they can also, everyone kind of takes the calls between us for the sales, so it kind of spreads out. So everybody's available to sort of take the calls, sort of max, so we don't sort of get anything that's missed. Sort of day to day, we kind of like just run hybrid mainly.
Okay. Whenever a customer comes to your website, what's the experience there? Do they fill in a form and wait for a call from one of your staff? Do they call the staff? Can they book online? Can they get a quote? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so we use Stora, as you know, that we use the online booking platform that comes with that. We use the information screen on there so that people have to put their phone number and email address in when they want to get a price, which then gives us that data to sort of collect and then contact them at a later date. They can then see all the pricing, and if they want, they can book then and there, or we can then contact them at a later date, see why they didn't want to book it, or maybe they want to book it for a bit later on.
So I think we call that gated pricing, where we kind of show the pricing, but after they've given the details, and then they can book, or they can, but also your staff know to pick up the phone and give them a call. That's the way we refer to that. So once assuming then they've booked and they're moving in, say today, what's the process? Do they have some sort of code for the gate? How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's all emailed. It's all emailed through. There's obviously the ID verification that they do, and everything's emailed. If they get the information, if they want to purchase a padlock off of us, they can just call us up and we can process that for them, and they can just collect them from one of the collection points on site. And if we also sort of say that people are welcome to use their own, although we do recommend our ones that go in the lockbox. But so we sort of have like 4 locations on the site with they're like large key safes that the padlocks can stay in, and then they can just come and collect them when they turn up.
How can a customer move in without seeing a member of staff, like on a Monday night, and they get a code for the gate? They could move in with their own padlock. And what system do you use? I know there are a few different options. What do you use as a smart entry system on the gate?
So we use Barebox and PTI. We've got a mixture of both throughout the locations. So customers can move straight in off of they book it online, get an email with once they've completed their verification and everything, we get the terms and conditions to sign, and we send them the gate codes. Each gate code is unique to the customer, and the unit number. So they can just turn and move in.
You also, you really are a container expert, because you also run a business called Quickfit, which is not the business that you change your tires. It's a container, I think a container accessory business. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that came about?
So it came about through Standby a lot, mainly because we were looking really at stuff that we needed. We sort of had an idea for a few different things that we wanted, and we couldn't really get hold of in sort of like for cameras and lighting and just like splitting up containers and stuff like that. And it kind of it grew from really us either sort of developing it ourselves and getting it made, and then thinking, well, we'll start selling and see how it goes, kind of thing. So then thinking like, let's expand on it a bit more and do it as its own entity, and then we just really just rolled from there really, and sort of then thought, well, no one really does parts either, and we need some of these as well, so let's just if we don't sell it, we use it ourselves. But then it kind of just sort of snowballed from there really.
And do you sell mostly to self-storage, or is it all sorts of industries then you're supplying that to?
It's all kinds of industries. I mean, we sell like stuff for construction, hire, sort of, all sorts of like different sites, locations. Got involved with like, government contracts and just everything really. These containers just everywhere, aren't they now? It's yeah.
I know. What's the most exciting or kind of unusual thing you've ever seen with for a container? I mean, I've been in coffee shop containers and pub containers, but I don't know. You must have seen some. I'm sure you've seen some interesting uses.
There was there's a bomb-proof container that we got involved with a while back. That was quite interesting. There's been dark kitchens for Deliveroo. People have built these kitchens that are just out of containers, and then they then list themselves on Deliveroo and start cooking food out of them. There's there's so many uses. It's just crazy, isn't it? There's people that built towers for festivals and stuff for all kinds of things, really. Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, cool. So if anyone's listening who is in containers, wants to find out, how can they find out more about Quickfit? What's the domain name? What's your website?
Yes, it's just quickfitcontaineraccessories.co.uk.
So thinking about your self-storage business again, what would you say if there were three things that you think are the most important things to focus on with a self-storage business and that lead to success? What would those three things be?
I'd say probably pricing and increasing rents is quite important. I think, especially, I think in any business, but obviously, sort of keeping an eye on costs and the increase cost of your location where you are, because quite often, you think you've got a really good sort of income, everything's set up really well. But you've always got to keep an eye on what the rent's going to be at the next rent increase. If you're a leaseholder, you're sort of looking at your next rent, or obviously your increased costs of your sort of mortgage repayment if you own a freehold. I think it's always something to sort of bear in mind. And then I think also just setting it up properly in the beginning, making sure that you kind of made the provision, because quite often you think, I put a few containers in and we'll start small, but then actually you think afterwards, I really should have just done this all differently in the beginning and just spent a bit more money, because at the end of it is quite a large capital expense. And either way, so if you just do it in small pieces or you do it in a larger one, you've got to get it right, because of it's going to be there a long time, hopefully. And the more those little things that sometimes you think, I'll leave them, I won't do that, in the end it makes a big difference.
Cool. So I heard there. So whenever you talk about pricing, are you thinking about you talk about customer pricing where you're there?
Yeah.
And then as well, your costs as well. So be very aware of pricing and keep an eye on your customers' prices and doing price increases, but also watching your costs. Is that those are the two things?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, great advice. Have you ever come across some very bizarre things being stored?
I'm trying to think of what the most bizarre thing is. We had a unit a while back where we cut the padlock off someone who hadn't paid, and it must have been it's quite late in sort of winter. It's quite dark, and my colleague John opened the door and just went in. Just as he was going inside the unit, there was this big zombie mannequin that was just hiding behind the door. That was quite a surprise. But
How did John react to that?
Yeah, he was a bit surprised about it. Yeah, it was 'cause it's dark as well. But I think the most reassuring thing was that we knew that no one had been in for about a good 3 months or so. So we knew there shouldn't be anybody in there that's actually alive. So So if you're going to find somebody, it would have been a body. Yeah. But and then I think just trying to think of other things that we've had over the years. There's sort of I think on another occasion we've had old guns and things like that people have stored, and then the auction come and kind of had to we've had to just get someone to come and take them away.
What about when you look at the self-storage industry? So you obviously know it well, and we would see each other at lots of events. So you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on. What
Mm.
do you see as the latest trends or innovations shaping the direction of the industry, the self-storage industry?
I think there's going to be a lot more people going into it, definitely, and probably sort of like small, sort of 1 or 2 site sort of guys, sort of coming in, more unmanned, sort of kind of self-service. Definitely is going to be where it goes, isn't it? I think. Yeah. Do you see that from your perspective as well? Or?
Yeah, well, I suppose one of the things I see quite a bit is growth. Lots of new facilities opening. As more and more people find out about, it is a good business. It's it's a nice, strong, cash flowing business where there is lots of unmet demand. I would say still right across the UK. At the same time, I think there are other trends going on. There's the obvious trend of more digitalization, increasing numbers of operators letting customers book online and automating their sites so people can move in without necessarily having to see staff. Lots of people have staff as well. Lots of our customers have staff sites, but they'll also add on that facility for kind of self-move-ins, which I think we've seen more and more of as well. So yeah, no, those are the main trends I see. If I look forward 5 years, who knows? I don't like to try and think about that far ahead, but certainly I would say we'll just see more and more self-storage across the UK. One of the interesting things you said earlier in the call about the drive-up units that are popular in the US, I do hear more and more people looking at that in the UK, and I think that is a nice, it's kind of a nice hybrid model, isn't it, between indoor and containers? So I think we'll probably see more of that. Do you ever think about where things might be in 5 years' time, or some sort of futuristic feature for self-storage? What might it be?
I might mention this to you a while back. I was going to say, we kind of thought that it would be a really cool idea if, when the customer puts their PIN code in the gate and they've not paid and they're locked out, it should send them a text automatically with a link to pay, so that they can just hit that link and just pay what they need to pay to get in. Because of that's always a thing. In the evening, late in the evening, someone might turn up to access the unit and they find they're locked out because they haven't paid, and and you get a call from, sort of they want to get it all sorted so they can get access, and so that could be useful.
That's a nice feature, actually. We were just chatting earlier about text messaging and how to get that into Stora soon, and that'd be a very nice way to introduce that, because obviously if somebody's at the gate taking a phone, or they're going to have their phone probably on them, so send them a text. They can always pay, and that can be done either by the smart entry technology software or else by a software like Stora. So good idea. And I know you've mentioned that before, but I'll write it. I'll put it back into our list and give it another bump. So last question: what do you think? About the next 5 or 10 years for standby? Do you have where do you see the business being then?
We still got quite a large space upstairs for its upper level sort of containers. We really want to try and push more, get more done, more rented upstairs. And also, if you can get freeholds, great, or sort of long leases. I think, that's where we were sort of looking at.
One more final question then. So, you talk about not going far outside your area. So you have 8 sites. How far away from each other are they? Are they within kind of a 1 hour drive radius, or roughly what's the?
Furthest. I mean, we go from Worthing up to Aylesbury in sort of distance. So it's probably about. We're based mainly in Horsham, my sort of central location. It takes about 2 hours to get to Aylesbury, half an hour to get to Worthing. So it's one of those things. I think it's just, I quite like everything kind of. I like to have everything sort of reasonably close by in a way, but at the same time, like it just depends what comes up, doesn't it? And you can't always,
Yeah.
you see a good opportunity, but it's just there. I like to just keep it all close by now myself. But yeah.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much. So Michael, you've got standby self-storage and then also Quickfit for container accessories. So great to have you on.
Thanks.
Yeah, you really know the industry inside out. So thanks very much. Cheers. I'll see you soon then, Michael.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cheers. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
At Stora, our mission is to help our customers build the best self-storage businesses. Self-Storage Explained is here to try and bring you the best from inside and outside the industry to help you grow your business. If you want to find out a bit more resources, go to stora.co to sign up for a demo or find out more, or you can go to stora.co/academy for lots more resources, including our financial model and other in-depth guides to setting up and growing your business.